You cannot tax any individual beyond certain elasticity. It's just like expecting a cow that has been giving you 27 liters to give you 50 liters. Is as naive as any one of us. Is ill-equipped in terms of experience like any one of us. Let them be prepared. Anybody from the opposition will beat them hands down by 9:30 in the morning.
Truly delighted to have you on Richard Mwenja Exclusive this first week of February, the year of our Lord 2024. My name is Richard Mwenja. Always a pleasure to have you on board. Now on today's conversation, we're talking a plethora of issues in the world of politics and governance. But first things first, allow me to introduce to you the man who will help me break down this conversation, none other than the firebrand himself, former cabinet minister, Ruto Arap Kiro. Looking sharp as always.
Yes.
How have you been though?
Very well. And we thank God for the new year and the new month.
Very good.
Yes, I used to be vibrant. Now I'm...
you are such a voice of reason, and many people actually are talking about that.
Yes, I try because the alternative is a disaster.
The alternative is a disaster.
Yeah, at my age, if you are to lie to yourself, it is something that one should be worried.
But then again, you're talking about your age, but you are someone who is aging like fine wine. I was actually conversing with a lady who is part of our camera people, and she said, I'm surprised, these guys still looking so young. What's the secret though?
Well, there's no secret. I just leave it to God. I provide whatever
tithe and all.
Yeah, and we leave it that way. And perhaps I've been around the landscape for far too long that people think I'm as old as the rest. Because there are some people who get to politics at the age of 50. So if they are there for 30 years or more like me, they would be in their 80s. But of course, I entered politics at the age of 30.
Very well.
Yeah.
So that's the secret to having zero wrinkles on your face.
I don't do any makeup.
You don't do any...
You can be sure.
Sure, I can attest to that. Let's get straight into the conversation of the day. And how about we begin from the corridors of justice? And that has to do with the back-to-back attack on the judiciary and compromising its independence. Very recently, we've seen the court bar deployment of Kenyan police officers to Haiti. The president has come forth and said he will spearhead that agenda, and in the fullness of time, police will head to Haiti. Not just on that, on the ruling about the housing tax, it was termed and deemed unconstitutional by the courts. But the president still says it has to see the light of the day. From where you sit, Ruto Arap Kiro, I mean, how far are we from really respecting and understanding the need for us to obey the voice of the courts and to grant it utmost independence?
Yeah, without a lot of background, it is important for Kenyans to know that the hallmark of democracy is separation of powers, both from judiciary, the executive, and the legislature, in such a way that each institution operates independently. But of course, they are interdependent because they need each other in the fullness of time. But proper governance structures demand that each institution should be allowed latitude of freedom to make decisions on the basis of what they consider prudent and also good for the management of this country. And the president, yes, he may be in a hurry to want to achieve everything. But if there was any advice I can offer to him, and he would be in a position to listen, he just needs to be reflecting on every issue, take time, process, because the Constitution is not rigid. The Constitution is a live document, a document that we just need to understand what does the Constitution require. Then you go according to the tenets of the Constitution. But going against the Constitution is inviting anarchy in our country, and it is precipitation of dictatorship that I've always maintained. As long as you are not respecting the other institutions of government, you are breeding dictatorship in the society. And it's dangerous. You see, once dictatorship gets into town, it is impossible to chase it out of town. You've seen with West Africa states and many other parts of Africa that once there is military coup, there is some kind of unconstitutional takeover, it becomes a culture of that particular society, which is a worrying trend. Yeah.
It is indeed a worrying trend. And sticking to matters corridors of justice, the High Court has actually ordered an immediate reconstitution of the IEBC, Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. But then again, from both Kenya Kwanza and a section of Azimio, they believe that until the National Dialogue report is fully adopted, then we cannot go forward with the constitution of IEBC, the commissioners, and even the chairperson itself. From where you sit, do you believe that the National Dialogue Committee sort of brought forth a constitutional vacuum, and the ruling by the High Court judge should actually be implemented fast enough?
Well, I do respect the ruling of the court, and I'm happy that the judge was courageous enough to give that kind of ruling, because what it entails is that if we do nothing, we are going to lose 27 constituencies in Kenya. They will just be decimated from the face of the earth. And if we do nothing by April, then we shall have lost time, because you are supposed to review the constitution between 8 years and 12 years. So anything beyond 12 years becomes unconstitutional in itself. What is the window left? In the NATCO report, they gave a leeway for possibility of extension for that particular period. And that extension can give the leaders time to be able to consult and agree on a common plate of things. So my prayer is that really both sides of the equation should realize that we should not create a national crisis by wiping away 27 constituencies of the Republic. At the same time, we must give also Kenyans whose representation is sort of
at a limbo,
at a limbo, a chance to have the by-elections, including, I think, one of the MPs who was knocked down by a motorcyclist
in Banasa.
Yes, that constituency is vacant, and many other MCA positions throughout the Republic. We must allow Kenyans to feel they are represented by their own people, because they also pay taxes like the rest of us.
All right, moving on swiftly, and let's shift gears and talk matters to do with public intelligence. And let's begin from the front of the president, that is William Ruto, running into hostile crowds in many of his recent tours. I want to understand from your perspective as a seasoned politician and leader in this country, why are we seeing a fast sort of fading charm? He had this crowd pulling charm, but it's fast fading away. What could be the reasons fueling the charm fading that fast?
Well, as I've said, he's a victim of his own administration. A victim in the sense that he allows himself to make promises without checking the policy direction, the possibility of raising resources to implement the decisions and the promises he has given to the public, and therefore he has demystified himself. You see, the life of William Ruto has been, you have to look for somebody to blame. Initially, they were blaming us in the sense that we were in government, and you remember the 4-1, 41 communities against one community, the Kikuyu community. So it worked for them, and that's how my community was almost to the last man taken to ODM in 2007. Subsequent to that, he spent a lot of time blaming Raila for 4,000 lost youths from the Kalenjin community. It worked for him. He was able to galvanize the thinking of the community. The same Kikuyus they were blaming 5 years prior, they came together in 2013 to form what we call referendum against the Hague. So they had also something, an external enemy to blame on. That is how Uhuru and him won the 2013 election. 2017, after dispensing with Uhuru, because after Uhuru's second term, he realized he didn't need Uhuru. So he had to blame all manner of things on President Uhuru Kenyatta, including the things they decided together. Because in my own honest opinion, and drawing from my experience and the observations we made between 2013 and 2018, it was more like co-presidency. President Uhuru Kenyatta almost gave him a latitude of freedom to run government with him. And therefore, if anything happened between that period, he is also part and parcel of it, including the current debt situation. So now that he is the president, having divided the country into hustler and the dynasty narrative, which worked very well among the poor of this country. Because let me tell you, if a motorcyclist knocked you from behind, you are the one whose vehicle might be banned if you have a vehicle. Because our society has been galvanized in some kind of thinking that there are those who are making us poor, and there are those we need to fight. So the Asla dynasty narrative sold very well. It's sold in volumes. So what is happening is that he has demystified himself because the promises he made to Kenyans, he has realized it is not possible because the taxes that he can collect are a certain limit. You cannot tax any individual beyond certain elasticity. It's just like expecting a cow that has been giving you 27 liters to give you 50 liters. Whether you beat it up or what, it will not get you more milk. In fact, they say if you want a cow to give you more milk, you sing for it. That is when you can prepare it psychologically to give you more milk, more and more.
You cannot fatten the bull on the market day.
No, you have to fatten it 3 months before.
Skeptics, though, to your argument would say that those who are paid hecklers, that was not an organic following, an organic heckling. It was paid. Those people were paid to heckle the president. Do you believe there could be an ounce of truth in that? Now, say case in point back in Meru.
Well, Meru may be an isolated case, but just start with Bomet. Go to Trans Nzoia, because there was heckling in Trans Nzoia.
True.
Go to Nakuru. Now go to Meru and many other places that I may not care to remember now. So really, who is this person who pays people to heckle the president throughout the republic? Starting with Bomet, which is his staff, who paid people to heckle the minister in front of the president. You know, these are some of the things. You know, whoever kicks your dog is actually looking for you. So if you see one of your leaders or one of your ministers being heckled, know that there is something untoward that you've done collectively as a government against the public.
Very well.
So this is the public wrath against this current administration.
Very well. Yeah. And part of those people who are woke to this new reality that the president is receiving hostile crowds and they're trying to change the situation around, even in Kenya Kwanza, case in point is Gathoni Wamshomba, who feels the president is naked and there's need for him to be dressed in a way that he works for the people and not for himself and the executive around him. But then again, there are those who believe people like Gathoni Wamshomba are calling out the message the government are traitors in the temple. Yet, in their own sense, they believe they're advocates of the poor. Let me ask you, do you consider bold voices within Kenya Kwanza like Wamshomba to be real traitors and enemies to the president?
Well, it depends on how the president handles them. You know, the support to the current president, especially in central Kenya, was almost cultic. And therefore, anybody to question that position that was seen to be almost cultic is to say the least, like daring the lion. So the issue is that times have changed. People of central Kenya or any other Kenyans for that matter, they are also observing what is happening on the economic landscape, political landscape, and therefore they are being responsive to the challenges they are seeing. In central Kenya, they have been producing some of the highest volumes of milk nationally as a region. Today, most of those grazing units are closed or they are in state of disrepair. That has direct impact on the economy of the people. So Wamshomba is trying to respond to the reality on the ground. And I remember in one of the PG meetings, because we get some of this information, the president was told the public is hostile. And that is why they postponed elections of UDA in December, ostensibly for April. And I know even by April,
they might postpone
to August and subsequently never to hold them. So, and I was told the reply he gave is that let's deal with the situation now. The next election is a bit too far. So I think their hope is that the public may still adjust. And of course, there are three narratives they are giving. One is that they are saying, who can replace him? The second narrative is that he has inherited some of the challenges. The third narrative is, if opposition is not united, they cannot beat him. If he was able to get the votes when he was outside, it is easy for him now to get the votes now that he is in charge of almost all apparatus of state. Well, the answer to that is I would want to give them free advice, is that I lost my constituency when I was minister. I had more money than any other time for the elections that I fought. And I just, I could not squeak through. I realized by midnight that there was a difference of 1,300 votes between me and my opponent.
A paltry 1,300 votes?
Yes. And I've been away for 20 years. So losing an election when you are an incumbent is easier than even winning it. Why do I say that? When people come to your office now, like if we were to go to the office of the president now, we have to give him that respect. There is that aura of power. But when you get to the ballot, now you think of the guy, that this is the guy who has been punishing me for the last 5 years. My worry is, let them be prepared. Anybody from the opposition will beat them hands down by 9:30 in the morning.
2027.
2027.
Let me ask you, you've been here for quite a long time, and for people like Gathoni Wamshumba and many others within Kenya Kwanza circles who are calling out the president to fix the messes, oftentimes, do they end up in the right side of history? Does history has a place for them?
Well, I could be an example of them. I opposed Moi for 15 years when I was the Kanu MP. I was Kanu MP for 15 years, and I was NAC MP for 5 years. And I opposed President Moi. And I think I have more respect than
those who played to the tune of the gallows.
Those who played to the tune of the presidency. Some of them are already forgotten. But I'm still hanging around this town.
You're even labeled Makoha.
Yeah, Makoha, because he felt that I was more inclined to the community that live among the rest of us in Trans Nzoia.
Very well. Yeah. Let's advance this conversation further and talk about the political future of President William Ruto and what could probably misalign his legacy. And that has to do with his insatiable appetite to make promises over sunroofs. Oftentimes when he goes for public gatherings, it's promised after the other from him and also his DP, Rigathi Gachagua. Would you advise him maybe to go down on the promises and at least implement those ones which were part of his economic transformation plan before any further promises?
You know where the rain started beating them is the fact that they used what they call the plan. Which was basic plagiarism from what Obama had in America. It was basic plagiarism. Any intellectual worth his salt will know the plan was plagiarized from what Obama said. But in any decent democracy, and in areas where governance is respected, you translate the plan or your manifesto into policy government position. What does policy government position do? It assists you to realign the resources available, to give the proper timelines, so that any promises you make according to the originating from the manifesto now in government policy documents is based on realistic timelines and in achievable results. But you see what they do is that they are using their manifesto, and almost whatever they think is a good idea, possibly over a cup of tea in the morning, becomes the message for the day. And that message has not been processed, or in other words, midwifed through a process that allows realistic, achievable government targets to be done. Government does not operate on a manifesto. It operates on a policy document that was borrowed from the manifesto.
Very well. Yeah. Is it that somewhat he's underrating public intelligence by promising oftentimes thinking they believe it's true hope, whereas it's false hope from him? Is it that the public is not that intelligent?
I do not know, but you see, I've always taken that President William Ruto has gotten enough experience, having been the deputy president for 10 years, having been a minister for almost 10 years, or 5 years, because that was the Dusumukate government. Government. So for 15 years, somebody being in government, you would expect to have learned a lot. But what I realize now is as naive as any one of us, is ill-equipped in terms of experience like any one of us. And then he has the other challenge that he does not have the requisite capacity to listen and integrate information from different sources, including the intelligence. Because I'm sure the intelligence is telling him the truth.
They are briefing him.
They must be briefing him, and intelligence never lies. They tell you the truth as is. It's for you to process that information. So for me, I feel he's underrating the capacity of Kenyans, and he thinks he's going to appeal to the emotions of the people as we get closer to 2027. Yeah.
But you are saying it's going to be dead on arrival, that strategy from him.
That strategy is not working because, you see, it works when we are still underdog. You see that the voting of the public is very interesting. They vote for you because they like you, and they also vote for you because they hate your opponent. The third position is that they vote for you because you are the underdog. And any promise you make, they still believe, given a chance, he can do it. But you see, which chance does he need to be given now? He is the president. He has all the taxes he collects from us, plus more taxes he has been collecting, some of them illegal. And yet we are not seeing evidence of that tax. Yeah.
Very well. That point by the firebrand himself, Kipruto Arap Kirwa, takes us to the wrap of this conversation, talking a lot of issues in the world of politics and governance. We wait for the next conversation, hoping that you'll tune in and continue supporting us and engaging us on our other social media platforms. I'm at Mwenje Richard on Twitter. Reach out and let's advance that conversation in there. Until next time on Richard Mwenje Exclusive, do enjoy the rest of your day.